What did you think of the Super Bowl?
I thought it was really interesting. I actually picked the Kansas City Chiefs. We did a pregame show, Blake and I, 2 hours before the game. Subscribe to us, Blake and Vish Sports. But we did a pregame show, and I picked the Chiefs, and I picked them solely because I thought that Andy Reid would come up with a game plan in 2 weeks to protect his offensive line. I thought Mahomes is Mahomes. How are you going to stop Kelsey and Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill? And then I thought Spags would have something really juicy for Tom Brady to think about. And, I was wrong on all fronts with it. It was a really interesting game because I think that's the first time I've looked at in Mahomes' career and said, wow, his team just got outcoached. And I thought that's what happened. Todd Bowles outcoached Andy Reid and Byron Leftwich outcoached Spags. Both of them had game plans that wasn't the exact template that they'd been following the last 18 weeks. It was something a little new, something a little different. And it really worked to the favor of their respective teams. And, you look at what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did, right? And with Tom Brady, they went 45% play action yesterday, which is something that was the highest percentage of their season. And it was really important, right, to get the run established and not put Brady in 3rd and 8 from the shotgun where Spags is showing something crazy and he ends up blitzing and changing into something crazier and Brady's under pressure. And they really protected him and they played with their defense. They played with their run game. They played a very, very, very controlled, fundamentally sound team football game in all 3 phases. They won with offense, defense, special teams. It was complementary. It was the finest version of complementary football you could find. And that was really cool to see. And, in my opinion, I actually thought Patrick Mahomes played a phenomenal game.
I thought he did too.
I thought he played outstanding. I don't think there's any other quarterback that could have made the number of plays that he made yesterday in the circumstances. Right. How many drops were there that were just incredible plays where, he drops back. First read is not open. Shaq Barrett, JPP, Ndamukong Suh's face, runs back 5 yards, runs away from them, then turns around and flicks off platform with barely any body weight, taking a half a look at the guy, a laser that hits the guy in the face mask or hits the guy in the hands or is as accurate a ball as you can get. And, Kelsey dropped a big one on a 3rd down. Hill dropped the one early that could have been a touchdown. That was ridiculous. And then, of course, Darrell Williams dropped the touchdown. So,
okay, so hold on. That's very interesting, your thoughts on the Chiefs. And I understand that you're focused on the Chiefs because you picked them. Now, I picked the Bucs. And so my takeaways from the game are more centered on Tampa because as I'm watching it, I'm like, see. So let me just run by you what I was thinking. I mean, what struck me about Tampa's performance, certainly on defense, it was phenomenal. We've talked about Todd Bowles. He's phenomenal. That Vita Vea player is phenomenal. Devin White and Levante David in the middle are the closest tandem we've seen to Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. It's a terrific team. That being said, it was 7-9 last year. And when Brady got there this year, very few people considered Tampa just the Super Bowl favorite. I mean, there were a lot of reasons why not to. No offseason. They didn't have a lot of time to gel. The fact that they brought in Brady brought in himself, but not just him. It was this collection of kind of misfits that he brought with him. No one wanted Leonard Fournette. That guy cleared waivers. No one wanted Antonio Brown. He was toxic. And Rob Gronkowski only would have came out of retirement for one guy. So he brought this crew with him, and they all played really well in this game. I mean, Fournette scored, didn't he? Am I tripping?
Yeah, Fournette
scored.
Had a touchdown run, yeah.
Gronkowski scored. Did Antonio Brown score?
Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone
incredible route on Tyrann Mathieu.
Right, like so everyone that Tom Brady basically brought back from the dead performed. And these players like Fournette, Antonio Brown in particular, were considered like bad eggs, like guys who would rip apart your team. You never heard anything with these guys all season when Brady was the quarterback. So it was interesting to see. I think it's like we've talked about like what makes a quarterback the best. You know, he's not the most skilled quarterback of all time. He's probably not even the top 10 most skilled quarterback of all time. But he is the best quarterback of all time. And it's all this intangible stuff. And it was on display last night. The way that he can hold Antonio Brown accountable, the way he can hold Leonard Fournette accountable, the way that he can raise the level of professionalism of everyone on the team it was very impressive to see it play out. And what I think is you're seeing from Brady is he's a lot like LeBron in the sense that LeBron can take his act to any team and basically get them into title contention within a year or two. That's just any team. And I think Brady's the same way too. It's remarkable. It's just remarkable.
Do you think he also ended world hunger and cured COVID-19 while he was at it this year?
I don't think that's overstated, man. I really feel that what Tom Brady did this year and in this game is the top accomplishment of his career, which is the most accomplished career of all time.
Absolutely. That cannot be minimized. And you definitely deserve credit because you picked them in August, right?
I did.
You said you 100% deserve credit for that. So definitely props to you for that. What I will say is that I do think from the standpoint of the accountability and all of that, there's no way to quantify that. And what Tom Brady pulled off, 40 touchdowns at the age of 43, pushing the ball down the field the way he did, the throws he's still making at 43, all of those things should not be understated. This is one of the great seasons in NFL history for a 43-year-old quarterback. Like it's unprecedented for him to even be playing at half this level at 43, and he's still playing at like a top 10 type quarterback. So what he's doing is phenomenal. For me, the one thing I will say is I think his contributions within this playoff run, especially the last two games, have been a little overstated from the standpoint of yesterday they won with their defense. What their defense did was phenomenal. And I think something that went under the radar is you brought up Vita Vea in the beginning. I think you called him Vita Vea.
Sorry.
But Vita Vea, no, I'm just messing with you. But
I did call him Vita Vea.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you. But Vita Vea in the beginning, when he played this season, by DVOA, it's the top analytics metrics. If you remember, before he got hurt in the Green Bay game, people were like, wow, this Bucs team is historic in terms of their DVOA. Wow, we didn't expect their defense to be that good. And it was because he was playing, and then he got hurt, and the defense fell off, and everybody was like, oh, see, the Bucs don't have a defense, blah, blah, blah. He came back last week for Green Bay. I don't know how a 345-pound man comes back from a broken ankle and plays the game the way he did. But he did come back and played like that the last 2 weeks, and he dominated. And when he plays, the Bucs had by far the best defense in the NFL because they have speed at all three levels. They're extremely sound when it comes to tackling. Todd Bowles is a phenomenal defensive coordinator, and they can rush the passer. Their front four, to me, was underrated because they didn't play a lot of time together. But when you add, as Cam Newton calls him, Donkey Kong Sue, Dominating Sue, and Ndamukong Suh, who's maybe a Hall of Fame level player, 5-time first-team All-Pro, Vita Vea, who's a top 13 pick and is a phenomenal football player, Shaq Barrett, who led the NFL in sacks last year, and Jason Pierre-Paul, who also might have a Hall of Fame argument when it's all said and done. When you have that front four with two elite linebackers.
No, I'm just saying this defense was in place last year, and they went 7-9.
And they had a great defense for 30 interceptions.
But the quarterback matters.
They're still a top 10 defense.
It's a hell of a defense.
So what I'm saying is, my point is that it's not like I think that another quarterback who was better than Jameis Winston could have gone to the playoffs with this same Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. I think that
Matthew Stafford would have won the Super Bowl with the Bucs this year.
I don't know that, but I think Matthew Stafford, this would be the best defense he's ever played with. I think Bruce Arians would be the best play calling fit for him in terms of his talent and skill set.
Okay, so the last point I want to make about Brady, and this is why I want to tie it back to the Niners. The intangible thing that he brings is like what Peyton brings. They take over the team. It's their team. They're the head coach of the team. If Bruce Arians were to retire tomorrow, who cares? You could just make Todd Bowles the head coach. Nothing would change. It's Tom Brady's team. The way that Peyton Manning's teams were always his team. He's the number one voice. He's basically leading the practices and the meetings and holding everyone accountable. And Peyton was great at that. It was part of what made him Peyton. Brady's better at it. And we're seeing it. Peyton was great. Brady's even better at it. And it's amazing to see him do it on another team. Peyton did it on another team too. But Peyton was dragging a little bit at that point. Brady still looks as good as he's ever looked.
Maybe.
I mean, it's not like he still throws the ball.
He's still slinging it. Like, I don't want to come across as if I'm trying to minimize what Tom Brady has achieved, because this is the greatest career maybe in all of sports. What he's done is just phenomenal. I mean, this season is as good a season. I think it actually, I thought it was underrated from the standpoint that people didn't realize that this was a 43-year-old quarterback throwing for 40+ touchdowns and playing like a top 10 quarterback and still making all the high level throws he was making. So I don't want to minimize that at all. What I do want to say is that I rather than saying that Tom Brady's contributions are getting overstated, I do want to say that defense, Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich, their contributions are getting understated. And that's the point I want to drive home.
Let's give them their props because Bowles is phenomenal. Bowles is phenomenal. He is, as a coordinator, I got to say he's every bit as good as Robert Saleh. And I hold Saleh in the highest regard. So that's how much I think of Bowles. He's up there with Fangio and Saleh.
If you remember last season, do you remember who gave the Niners run game the most trouble throughout the entire season?
Who was
Todd Bowles week 1. Todd Bowles week 1.
That's true.
They couldn't run the football, and Jimmy was really bad in that game, and their offense wouldn't have scored if it wasn't for Jameis Winston giving the ball away. They were struggling.
Okay, so before we move on, I don't want to minimize what Leftwich and this excellent coaching staff on defense did, the entire defense. All I want to say is, and I know it is overstated because everyone talks about Brady, it's just cool to see another example of what he does well. It's great to it's fun to watch greatness.
Absolutely.
And it was just really fun to, even though that game was a straight up stinker. And all I want to say is, from the Niners perspective, one of the reasons he's not on the Niners is because of how he takes over. You know what I'm saying? The head coach has to be okay with that. And what we're learning is it takes a particular type of head coach to give up control.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And Kyle wasn't there. Arians was. Maybe it takes that type of wisdom. That type of.
The one more thing I do want to say about Brady, just in regards to that and taking over, and the other thing is that it's like with his contributions, I do want to mention, like you mentioned, the intangible thing. I don't know how to quantify that. What I will say is that I don't think we've ever seen a greater athlete at managing an entire locker room. I don't think we've ever seen it. I've never heard one bad word said about Tom Brady.
That's a good way to quantify it.
Yeah, I've never heard one.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, as a leader of a locker room, I've never heard one malcontent come out and say, because in every locker room, you're going to get that where there's one bad apple who will say, I dislike Tom Brady. I've never heard that.
You hear it with Rodgers, you hear it with Wilson, you hear it with Roethlisberger.
I've never heard it. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Look at Antonio Brown. He flipped out on Roethlisberger. He went to the Raiders and gave Derek Carr zero respect. He burnt his feet in a cryogenic chamber, and then he refused to play because his helmet wasn't right. Not a peep from him in Tampa because of Tom Brady. That's quantifiable. That's leadership. I'm telling you, when Tom Brady stands in front of a team and talks, there is no one in the football world, player or coach, who demands as much respect. Period. Am I wrong? Pete Carroll doesn't.
Bill Belichick.
Maybe, but maybe not. I'm saying those two would be the tops. Bill Belichick and Tom. And I swear the people in New England are probably like, hey, Bill, did you maybe give up on Tom a little too soon? I mean, maybe if you had a viable replacement, but Cam looks like he's done. So I'm starting it's my show, so you don't have to say this or agree with me, but I'm starting to feel like Bill Belichick is and was a fraud. Good coordinator, took way too much credit for what happened in New England, and is never going to replicate that success again. His next few years are going to resemble much more what happened in Cleveland in the 90s to the previous 20 years. You don't have to agree with me, and you can take me to pieces. But I'm just saying, I'm taking the liberty on my show to say that right now. What is this? This is February 8th, 2:49 p.m. Bill Belichick, a fraud. Bill, if you're watching, you can come see me. Fish, should we move on and talk about Josh Rosen? Hold on.
Do you want to put him on the hot seat real quick?